Hey, this is Kat from Red Mountain Shaman, and I share shamanic wisdom through dreams, visions, nature, synchronicities, intuition, channeling, art, music, photography, and shamanic journeys. Welcome back to my channel. So as usual, I'm going to get into some things I've been noticing going on in the collective, as well as some things that I've channeled in the past that seem to be kind of unfolding right now. And also, I received a message from Yeshua today, and it's about what the title is, about why people can't hear us or hear our wisdom or receive our light. And so it's a very deep, interesting message from him. So if you stick around to the end, I'll read that at the end. So the first thing I wanted to get into was I had a vision that I mentioned in a video. I think it was last year. And in this vision, I saw a homeless person. It could have been a dream, actually. I don't remember. But it was a homeless person. And I remember that some people pulled up, and all of a sudden this homeless person was in a body bag, and it kind of scared me. I'm like, well, are the homeless people going to die? And then I heard Spirit say, no, it's going to be the death of homelessness. I thought that was really cool. And then this week I noticed Mr. T has signed some sort of order, and I think he might also be doing some legislation about getting the homeless people off the street. And I believe that if you just put homeless people in houses without getting to the root of why they're homeless, that it doesn't work. And so I feel like all of these governments in these certain cities that have a huge homeless problem, I feel like they're really kind of laundering money. Like they've spent millions of dollars on homelessness, and actually it's gotten worse, not better. We can all see that with our own eyes. So I think what Mr. T is doing is he's trying to nip that in the bud so that they can no longer launder this money and say that it's because of homelessness, and he's actually going to try to get them into facilities so that they can get off of drugs and get their lives back together. So that was cool. The next thing I noticed was a couple weeks ago, or it could have been a couple months ago, I mentioned in a video that the boundaries between humans and animals would be lessening or changing. And this week I've been seeing videos of people and animals that normally don't interact the way that they do starting to happen. And one was a video, and it was a compilation of people interacting in really unusual ways with animals. And one was all these hummingbirds were around this little girl, and they usually don't land on people, and they were kind of landing on her. There was 3 of them kind of circling around her, and then a person was petting a red cardinal. It was just, the cardinal was just sitting there letting it pet them. There was a couple interactions with bears where the bears came up. There was one with a grandma on the porch, and the bear just came up and she said something to it and it ran away. And then bears coming into people's pools and this kind of coexisting with the families that live there. Just a lot of really interesting things with animals. So keep your eye out for that. I think that's going to continue. And it's interesting because in the Bible it says the lion shall lay down with the lamb. So that is probably... that energy is starting to slowly kind of unfold right now. So another thing that I noticed happening in the collective and in videos is people making compilation of lightning videos. I also noticed that there was one video where it was just this crazy lightning kind of going up a rainbow. You could probably look that up. I'm not sure if that's real or not, but it sure looked crazy and intense. And then also this week I saw that the world's record for a lightning strike was 515 miles long. And then a few weeks ago, Nikola Tesla channeled a message, and it was all about lightning. And he said, the lightning is within you. So it could be that he's saying, like, if the lightning is kind of weather manipulation, it could be saying that the true lightning is within us. And I really feel a connection with the thunder beings and the lightning. So it could be kind of a war between the fake lightning and the real lightning that is from God and it's from within us. We are electrical beings. So it's interesting to see this unfolding and playing out now and how much the lightning is showing itself lately. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was I was on kind of a consultation call with a potential client, and she mentioned that she had a dream. And in this dream, it was about Mr. T, and it was almost like there was almost like a weird sexual encounter that was about to happen. And I said, oh my gosh, I had a dream like that too. It was like, and we both kind of said, yeah, it was like the dream was about like a sleazy version of Trump. And I was like, yeah, when I got that dream, I didn't know what to do with it because he also does so much good in the world. So I have my friend Kimberly, she has a recent video, and she kind of got a message that he could have been maybe taken over by dark forces temporarily. There's also people like Ishmael Perez that believe that there's actually a few Trumps and that he's been cloned. I don't usually talk about cloning on here because I don't know how many people are ready for that concept, but I did once get a message. It was like that song from the 80s called Twilight Zone, and there's a line in there that says, it feels like being cloned, moving into the Twilight Zone. So I think there probably is something going on with cloning. I'm not sure if it's with Trump, but when I tapped in, I saw the number 3. There's at least 3 Mr. T's. I take that as you will. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that. And how is he doing what he's doing? And there's other ones. I don't understand it, but it's a possibility. So I just wanted to share that dream. It's very interesting that another person had it too. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is TikTokers copying each other. So watch out for that. I noticed that there's some TikTokers and they're in the spiritual community giving spiritual messages. And it's like they're reading a script, and it's not just like they're copying the same ideas, but it's the exact same wording. It's like the exact same script. So I'm not sure if they're getting this from ChatGPT or they're just writing down what somebody's saying and then making their own video and using their same words. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but just be aware of that. And people who are kind of getting on there, they're not really authentic. With me, I like to share like my own personal experiences. Like somebody is not going to be able to copy my personal experience with spirit. So that's what I feel guided to do, is share my own personal spiritual experiences. And that's what my channel is really largely based on, is how I interact with spirit and how I lead a shamanic life. And basically, I think the best definition of shamanism to me is somebody who is a bridge between the worlds, a bridge between earth and heaven, or a bridge between the dimensions. Let's see. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that there are 5 planets in retrograde right now. And so I think there is a lot of crazy energy going on. If you feel a lot of resistance, a lot of negativity coming up, it could just be that we are purging. We're forced to see what we need to release, what's not serving us anymore, and we're being forced to step into our power. And I had a situation this week with a session with somebody. I'll share with that in a few minutes, but it really was a session where the person was very critical of me, and it kind of made me question myself and what I do. And so I'll be talking about that in a few minutes. Then I noticed that there was the biggest fire I don't know if it's in history in Arizona, but it's called the Dragon Bravo fire. And interestingly, I had put a pillar of light in Arizona just about, I don't know, a week or 2 before that happened. And I mentioned that in a video, and not that I caused the fire, but it does seem like things happen every time I put a pillar of light somewhere. But I think that this fire definitely feels like a purification fire to me. And it's interesting that it's called the Dragon Bravo fire, because I also saw a red dragon over Japan, and I mentioned that I felt this dragon had to do something with the ley lines. And another thing I saw on YouTube was Carrie Kay made a video, and I think the video was called Red Dragon of Light Returning. So go check that out. She talks about the dragon riders and the ley lines and how the dragons are coming forth again and how to connect with your dragon guides. And Yeshua was going to talk, I think, a little bit about that today too. So I basically feel like these dragons are a good thing. They're about purification, shaking off the old energy and disclosure, bringing forth truth. So go see what she has to say. So I found it interesting that I saw this red dragon and then she saw it a few weeks later as well. Another great video I saw is... it's called The Spiritual Deception of the AI Kind is Here. And that video is on Greg Braden's channel. I really love what he has to say about AI. And he's talking about people who are tapping in spiritually with this technology. It can be used for good. He's not all against it, and neither am I. I use it a little bit here and there. But I don't feel called to like channel AI or use it as a kind of a spiritual tool to replace my own meditation, my own downloads, my own connection to spirit. Like I'm not into that at all. So use your own discernment, whatever you feel called to. But I highly recommend that video. It's really good. Okay, so I'm going to get to this session that I had this week. So like I would say like probably 99% of my sessions are awesome. I really put out the intention to draw to me people who are open-hearted and ready to do their healing work and ready to receive the messages from spirit, people who are on kind of a similar frequency. I also really consider myself a healer's healer. But every once in a while, I'd say like maybe once a year, I'll have just kind of a horrible session. This person was extremely rude, almost like bordering on kind of narcissistic vibes. And it's interesting because the first thing I saw going into this session was black smoke. So I'm just going to talk about what happened. I will never, ever share anybody's name with a session. But if it's a session that is either really positive, that feels like a great message for the collective, or even something that's kind of negative that will assist the collective in what's going on, I will share it. But I will always retain people's privacy. I will never share anybody's name. So anyway, in this session, one thing that came through in this session was that the doors were closing on her and her career to get her to relocate. And she got kind of mad and she said, well, I've been trying to move for 20 years. And so I just kind of laughed and I said, well, a good reading is something, spirit telling you something that you already know. And so she just, felt like she wasn't really open to that and was mad because she already knew that. And then she was talking about how she just didn't care about others in her work anymore. She wanted to stay home and do nothing and stay in a bubble. She didn't want to be here. And then at the end, when Spirit brought in this mineral that could help her with this sort of energy that she was in and mood stabilize, she says, oh no, I'm not open to that. And then when I said, well, I'm sorry that you're not open to the messages, she says, well, why do you assume I'm not open to the messages? So it was just this constant like circular energy. We would just kept going in circles and she just couldn't receive anything that was coming through from spirit. So it was super frustrating for me and probably her too. And so then she kind of, if you watch my channel, this is why I don't think she watches my channel. You know that spirit speaks to me in symbols very often. I channel, but they also give me symbolism. And Yeshua spoke like that too. And so she was almost like making fun of the symbols that came through and kind of rolling her eyes. And then towards the end, she just sighed. It's almost like she expected me to wave some magic wand and give exact steps on what she needed to do rather than going within and doing her own healing work and receiving the information that was coming through. So one of these symbols that came through was that we're at a choice point right now, and I sort of tried to give her like an overview of the ascension process and what was happening in the collective, and I think that might have scared her. Maybe she wasn't open to receiving that information. But what came through was like, we have a choice. There's a poison apple and the organic apple. And Sarah Shook, I recommend going to her and checking out her last video this week. She's talking about these 2 timelines and that we can get on. And she said that her guides told her it was a really important message right now because we're being presented with these choice points. And so Yeshua will talk also about what this apple's about in his channeling. But yeah, it's a timeline choice, and it's really going to come in strongly, and it's going to start splitting. And then another thing that came in when she was asking, like, what's my purpose? What do I need to do right now? And I heard healer, and she said, oh, that doesn't resonate at all. So like a couple days later, I heard the most important thing she needs to do right now is to work on healing herself. And like I heard shadow work, inner child, like healing. So she wasn't open to that either, and wasn't open to doing any of the homework of the symbols that came through. Another thing that came through was I asked Spirit like why she wasn't resonating, and the symbols that came through was the crab and the syringe. And she just said, like she just thought I was completely crazy bringing forth these symbols, and wasn't able to receive or even willing to do the work to see what these symbols were about. So I thought, well, she's not going to do the work, so I'm going to look into this. And I'm just curious, like, why is she not open to receiving the information that's coming through from Spirit in her session? So I looked up the crab first, and Spirit told me to look up also the shadow aspect of these 2 symbols. So very interesting. And so if you are a healer and you're getting somebody like this, this is kind of the energy, the shadow energy of the crab. While the crab spirit animal is often associated with positive qualities like protection, resilience, adaptability, and emotional depth, its shadow side represents less desirable aspects that can emerge when these qualities become unbalanced or are acted upon in unhealthy ways. And then one is excessive defensiveness and emotional withdrawal. The crab's hard shell symbolizes the ability to protect oneself from emotional hurt and external pressures. But when this protective instinct goes too far, it can lead to paranoia, isolation, causing one to retreat into an emotional shell and create a prison of fear and self-doubt that can hinder genuine connection and vulnerability in relationships. Number 2. Resistance to change and clinging to the past. And it's interesting because I spent an extra hour with this person free of charge to try to help her integrate and understand what was happening. And the second card I pulled at no charge was letting go of the past. And that's the crab energy, is clinging to the past. Like, it just felt like that card was telling her she needed to do the healing work of letting go of the past, letting go of the past energies that are in our world, maybe perhaps even the energy of her old job. So it says the crab's connection to the cyclical nature of tides and its ability to molt symbolize renewal and rebirth, embracing the natural rhythms of life. The shadow side can manifest as stubborn resistance to change and an inability to let go of the past, clinging to familiar patterns even when they're no longer serving your growth. This can lead to stagnation and emotional atrophy. And she was definitely like super emotionally shut down. And then number 3, emotional manipulation and passive aggressive behavior. So at the end, I said, Kuan Yin came through, and she was kind of making fun of Kuan Yin. I don't know even if she knew who Kuan Yin was. I've talked about on my channel, I believe Kuan Yin is an aspect of Mother Mary, and I also believe she's an aspect of Hathor. So she said, whoever that was, like, kind of making fun of this being who I was channeling beautiful messages from, and she just couldn't receive them. So I said, those were beautiful messages, and I'm glad she gave us some extra time today. And she said, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. So that's like such a passive aggressive comment. I was like, wow, this is like one of the rudest people I've ever worked with before. And so the crab's sideways gait can symbolize approaching situations creatively and taking alternative paths. But the shadow, its sideways gait, can be interpreted as avoiding direct confrontation and resorting to indirect or passive aggressive tactics in relationships, creating confusion and resentment. Number 4 with the crab is over-reliance on protection leading to emotional atrophy. The crab shell offers a necessary boundary and refuge, but over-reliance or the shadow aspect on this protective mechanism can hinder emotional growth and the ability to navigate challenges without retreating, leading to emotional stagnation. And then to integrate the crab's shadow, the goal is not to eliminate these shadows, but to find a healthy balance. While it's important to protect yourself, it's equally important to learn to set healthy boundaries, engage in relationships without fear of vulnerability. Okay, so that was why she wasn't open to the energy. She wasn't resonating with it. And then the second thing I got as a symbol of why she wasn't integrating what was coming through from spirit was a syringe. So I also looked up that. The syringe can hold various symbolic meanings, especially within the context of dreams and shadow work. While sometimes representing health and healing through medicine, it can also touch upon deeper, more challenging aspects of the self, also known as the shadow side. The shadow self and needles, according to Carl Jung, encompasses the unconscious parts of our personality, including repressed feelings, fears, and undesirable traits. Images involving syringes and needles may symbolize a confrontation with these hidden aspects. They can also represent sharp criticism, both from oneself and others, or an unwelcome influence or set of ideas being injected into your life. So with that, I feel like I was injecting some information about the ascension process and what was happening in the world that she might not have been ready for. And then she was criticizing me for feeling like she wasn't resonating with what was coming through from spirit. So there was a criticism there. And then on a spiritual level, an ejection could signify potential dangers or a need for spiritual restoration and a deeper connection with the divine source. So again, I said like the first card that came through to her was meditation. And she said, oh, well, I used to meditate, but I haven't been meditating. So it's like, well, there's another synchronicity, that Spirit's trying to tell you, but you're not open to receiving it. And then some interpretations of an injection can be linked to evil attacks or the inability to achieve spiritual or personal goals. So there could be some sort of entity attachments going on there. And then integrating shadow and needle imagery. Shadow work is a continuous process of acknowledging and integrating these hidden aspects to achieve greater self-awareness and authenticity. A syringe in this context could represent the piercing of superficial layers to access deeper wounds and facilitate healing. And again, when she asked what she's supposed to be doing or what her mission is, I got healer. And here it is in the symbol that came forward, that there's deeper wounds there and she needs to work on her healing. And then embracing your shadow through practices like journaling, meditation, which is the first card that came through to her, and reparenting your inner child. I also saw a child, and I wanted to go into some inner child, but she just was completely shut down and couldn't think of anything that she wanted to bring forward. And then greater self-love, confidence, and inner peace. While often associated with pain or fear, needles can also symbolize a needed intervention for physical or mental healing. So again, I got the mineral that came through, which is wanted to give her some physical healing, and also the inner child and shadow work that needed healing. The sharp point of the needle can represent a powerful catalyst for change and a tool for focusing on intentions and energy. In some spiritual practices, needles and pins are used in protective magic to ward off negative influences, and they can also be used for dark forces like voodoo to inflict pain on others. So again, like all these symbols, they have like both of a shadow and a light aspect to them. So it's important to remember that when a symbol comes through in your own healing practices for your clients or for yourself, to kind of check into both aspects of it and see what's resonating. So I also drew a card too. And again, this is like kind of a really powerful message to the healers and light workers. If you have a client like this who just cannot integrate what you're giving them, and they're not open to receiving what Spirit's giving them, that it's not always you. It's a lot of times they're just not ready to receive the information. So this card, when I asked why this person wasn't resonating with the session, it's from Alana Fairchild. It's called the Sacred Rebels deck. And I'm not going to read the whole card because it's pretty long. But the part of this card that really stood out to me, I'm going to read. This oracle brings particular guidance that although you are powerful, you are also vulnerable at this time. So I think we are vulnerable at this time because we are in the crux of a huge spiritual battle right now. So I think there are attacks from the dark forces on the light workers. So it's really important to remember that if you have a person like this, it's usually lying with them. Yes, we all have dark, so look at your own shadow as well, of course. But I do think it's important to create boundaries. I did end up blocking this person, and I had to do about 2 days worth of clearing that person's energy. It just felt like a very vampiric energy that was siphoning my light from the heart. It was in the heart center, and so I had to do a lot of work clearing out the heart center. So just I always try to protect myself before I go into a session, and I usually don't have any problems, but I honestly feel like Spirit was allowing this session to come through so that I could share this with you guys, because I believe there's a lot of other light workers and healers that follow my channel. I've been told I'm a Blu-ray teacher, so I feel like, again, I'm a teacher for the teachers. I'm a healer for the healers. So I believe that Spirit allowed this session to kind of unfold, and so that I could learn from it, and so that you guys could learn from it. So I'm going to start over. This oracle brings guidance that although you're powerful, you're also vulnerable at this time. You need to be alert to sabotage and criticism that may make your progress more difficult than it already is. That would be rather unnecessary. At least some of the people around you might be more attached to their fear and doubt than to their faith in your process and the ways of the creative, rebellious, spiritual path that asks us to trust unconditionally. They may be frightened due to a lack of understanding. You don't need to carry their fear for them. You have your own process to attend to, and they can choose to be inspired by your journey or be frightened by it. They are free to respond as they wish, and whatever those responses are, they are part of their journey for them to work through. So I thought that was a great explanation of why this person was not resonating. So Yeshua, in his message today, he's going to expand upon this just a little bit. So when I channeled him this morning, I typed out his message, and this is what I heard. Message from Yeshua, August 3rd, 2025. Why light workers and healers are not being heard, and why they are not receiving your light. Peace be with you, my comrades of the light. The time is now that the earth changes are taking place, and a great shift is happening. The dragons are indeed returning. They are not a myth, but merely within other dimensions. Many are now able to see them, for many are becoming the multi-dimensional beings that you once were. The veil of forgetfulness is lifting for those who are ready and have come to the point of acceptance and surrender to the truth of all things. Others are not at this point and thus remain within old constructs and old frequencies. New earth is a state of mind. It is a consciousness. Those who choose to remain in the old earth choose the poison apple, as those who choose the new earth choose the organic apple of source creation. Why do we present old earth as the poison apple, you ask? It is because of the poison that has been presented by all systems and paradigms of old earth. Poisoned air, poisoned waters, poisoned soil, poisoned bodies, poisoned minds, and even the poisoning of the organic soul by introducing and sometimes injecting inorganic substances and technologies into your bodies. Those who choose the organic apple will be turning away from the toxic pathways of the past. They are releasing the past. They look to the future with new eyes. These are they who have the spiritual eyes to see. Some have and are developing these spiritual eyes, and some have a long way to go. When you ask why these beings around you who cannot hear you or who cannot integrate your light and wisdom, this is the reason. I have spoken of the separation of the wheat from the chaff. We are now on the threshing floor, and the separation is happening. Some are ripe and ready for the harvest, and others need more time on the branch. I have always spoken in metaphors and symbols, and while I was sharing my wisdom upon the earth, there were always those who could not receive my messages and those who could not understand me. Those who understood were able to take my stories and symbols and integrate them for their own healing, and others could not. Some even sought to destroy me and my mission. We are now at a time when the light and dark forces are coming to a head. The drama of Earth is unfolding, and the conclusion is playing out. This saying, "It is always darkest before the dawn," could be used here. Challenges will continue, and I ask my brothers and sisters who work with the light to hold the line. Do not let go of the rope that guides you to safety through the blizzard. The rope is the faith in the Almighty I Am. It is the presence of the God force within you. It is the trust that peace and prosperity will prevail, even as we are tossed about within this final storm. We are in the final battle before the transfiguration of earth and humanity. I am visiting those with open hearts who carry enough purity to be able to see and receive my word. Many of these are the children. I have said that becoming like a little child makes it easier to receive the things of the Spirit. Those who are bound up in ego and the things or ways of the world are having difficulty letting go of the past or the old world, and they have difficulty receiving the wisdom of the new earth. But we shall carry on together, moving forward in these new frequencies, and bring forth the new earth together, despite those who choose to remain in the old. As you let go of the past, you may also be letting go of those who are choosing and aligning with the path that their soul is wanting or even needing in order to ripen and grow. Operate within as much light and joy as you possibly can as we move through the purification process. Be patient and find peace in the knowing that everyone is exactly where they are needing to be, and that those ready to shift will start remembering who they are. Those who are not will be given further opportunities that they desire for growth. If your light work feels as if it is falling on deaf ears, let them go, for they are not in alignment with your energy. Rather than allowing others to pull your energy down, let them go with this understanding. Your own cup needs filling. Nurture your holy grail. Nurture your body. For these precious golden chalices, they are your temples of light. Guard them and give them the highest nutrition you can find and afford. Trust that you are taken care of and that you are led through the storm into the highest outcome. The chosen ones are those who have chosen. They have made a choice to walk with the organic path and are open-hearted to the guidance of Spirit. Walk into the light of a new sun, you who carry the gold of the Christos consciousness. You are the 7 rays of creation, the rainbow warriors of new earth. The 12 tribes have returned. Blow the shofar, light the flame, ring the bells, roar with the lions, for the Lion's Gate portal is here. As you go within, you may find the courage of the lion within you, and this courage may catalyze great changes within you. And all great things brought forth into matter begin within the mind. You co-create first within the magnificence of the imagination. Without imagination, there is stagnation. You are creator beings, but some have forgotten this power of co-creation. It is through accessing the I Am presence, or God force within you, that you will bring heaven to earth, that you bring ideas into form. When you find time for solitude, meditation, and connection to the Most High, especially within nature, you begin to remember who you are and what you came here to do. And this is the beginning or start point of all form. This is why we continue to encourage all of you to meditate and to dream. Trust in the order and timing of the divine. Trust that creation is within you, and what is not fulfilled within an incarnation may still be fulfilled, for you are eternal. You are a magnificent spark of divine light. The power is within. The kingdom is within. And so is the way, the truth, and the life. I am Yeshua, he who shows the way and guides you to a remembrance of your own power. Spread your wings and fly, despite the dissolution of the old world and those who cannot see your journey or hear your truth. Keep flying, and you will rise out of the ashes and into the flame of new creation. Thank you, Yeshua. So today this video popped up on my feed. I've talked about this woman before. Her name is Betty Kovac, and she has a video called Merchants of Light. And here in this clip, she's talking about the indigenous people of Africa and why they didn't share a lot of their indigenous wisdom is because they felt people couldn't hear them or understand them in the West. So in a nutshell, I believe that what Yeshua was talking about here, the Rainbow Warriors, I believe the Rainbow Warriors did have indigenous past lives, and they were completely connected to Mother Earth and the Creator. And now we are returned back in all races or all colors of the rainbow in order to bring back our indigenous wisdom. And I believe this also has to do with something with the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm not quite exactly sure what that's all about. But one thing I did do was also put pillars of light in all the indigenous tribes or reservations, because I believe that there is a reason that the indigenous have had their cultures destroyed and their indigenous spirituality taken from them. And they've really just been under attack for a long time. So here's a little clip from her. This is really beautiful.
Story that is told, because it explains why they will not tell. They have not told their stories to anyone, to the white man, we might say, those outside of their culture, because they know they can't see it, they can't hear it, they can't understand what they're talking about. So it was kind of, we were in that position, the white culture, I think, for so long, is that we looked at them, we saw them as inferior. What did they have to teach us? Nothing. And yet they have this incredible ability to achieve cosmic consciousness. And they develop methods of dancing and with bells and jingles and sounds and repetitiveness, and sometimes days, nights, and they would go into an altered state of consciousness. And the majority of the men and women were shamans in the San tradition. They were a beautiful people, and they still exist in Botswana and Namibia, small groups though, because their culture is practically destroyed. But they had the ability to live life with such laughter and humor and joy that they really are an image for us to think about in the West. They knew the land, nature so well that they could live in it and experience communication among themselves wherever they were, and also with the animals. The animals are just incredible, how the relationships they have with them. So I mentioned them because of their ability to achieve cosmic consciousness in a very joyful and full way.
Thank you, Betty. It's 1:33 right now when I'm ending this. So there's some Yeshua's energy also in this message. And I love how she talks about the land and the animals and how they were deeply connected to nature. And with, these messages that the guides have been bringing about the boundaries between us and the animals starting to change. It's just, I think we're living in such a crazy time, but also such a beautiful time. So I asked Spirit to give us a card, what we need to know most right now related to this episode. And it's from the Native Spirit Oracle deck by Denise Lynn. And this card is called Great Mystery. And on the cover, it kind of looks like the North Pole with the Northern Lights. It's really beautiful. So maybe there's going to be something more with the Northern Lights coming up soon. The card meaning, have faith and know that you're divinely guided, even when you have doubts. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be. And that's exactly what came in during Yeshua's channeling. Believe. You've planted your seeds. Now allow the Creator to do the rest. Even if you can't see into the future, have faith that the path will be illuminated and go forward. If you have any recurring challenges, turn them over to the Creator. Not my will, but thy will be done. Your native spirit wants you to know many native cultures refer to the Creator as the Great Mystery. It's the idea that Great Spirit is so vast and profound that in many ways it's unknowable. Faith is the foundation of the ability to manifest. That was another thing that came through in the channeling too. I love when the cards are so synchronistic. Everything was created because someone believed that it was possible. And patience is absolutely critical in the application of this principle. Trust. Change can happen in a heartbeat, but some things also require time. You've planted the seeds. Now give them time to grow. Please be patient and know that it will happen. Whatever receives your care and attention will flourish. The journey. If you've planted some seeds in your garden today, or if you've planted a dream in your mind, is what I'm getting, you wouldn't go out tomorrow and yell at them because there wasn't any fruit yet. So don't dig up your seeds of faith. Remember this mantra. It is happening. Repeat this phrase periodically, especially if you have doubts, and keep going. And also if somebody's not hearing you and it's they're criticizing you, or their fear is creating doubt in your own spiritual process. Remember to have faith in yourself and keep going. So I hope you guys enjoyed that message today, especially if you are a healer or a light worker and you are experiencing some challenges. I hope that helped. So if you'd like to book a session with me, please go to redmountainshaman.com. You can go to my contact page, and there will be instructions there on how to contact me to book a session. And there is also a disclaimer there that I have put on my own healing page. If you're a healer, you might want to think about that too, for just to kind of put it out there for people who can't receive your messages, that, I've put in the work, but if you can't, I have no control over how you receive the message. So that's kind of there in the disclaimer if you want to read what I did, and you might want to do something similar for your own healing practice. So yeah, it always helps me to press the like and subscribe button and leave a comment to get me in the algorithms, especially share this message with other healers and light workers, or other platforms that you think would be receptive to this message. And if you'd like to leave a donation, you can go to my website, redmountainshaman.com. And at the bottom of my contact page, there is a PayPal there if you feel like you enjoy my messages every Sunday and you want to do a little contribution. It would really help. So I appreciate all of you for being here. I send you all the best. Keep going through this crazy energy and keep the faith. Take care until next Sunday.